this process for me is it's a way to talk to people. It's a way to create something, hopefully a resource for people to be preparing and whatever. But still, it's kind of, it's a video medium, and I'm utilizing Zoom to facilitate that because I can't come over to your studio and hang out,
Man, we looked at Zoom shares right after the market collapsed, and I was like, should I buy some Zoom stock? Damn, I wish I had. I don't even know what it's at now, but I think they went from being like a thing we used but didn't really think about much to being like a household name.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. I share the studio with a friend, and he's a live streamer. So he does content workshops. So he's been so busy right now with all these people trying to set up remote live stream capabilities, kind of consulting with equipment, as well as working with animators so they can kind of prep everything. He's already been doing quite a bit of live streaming remotely.
What you should do is put him and that trainer together and get that trainer to stop seeing customers live and have him do sign up for online sessions.
Yeah. That's a great idea. Because that would, minimize risk for everybody. But yeah, do
you think would be I think it's already clear that in some way the world will feel changed when this is over. I would say, to me, the big thing that happened to Americans after 9/11 is that we gave up some idea of personal freedom. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I think that we gave it up for any good reason, but we did. Something is going to be different after this. You starting to get a feeling of what that might be?
For me personally, I think that there are going to be some personal freedoms lost. Even at the point now where we're being told we can't go outside. That's obviously that's a health concern, but it's still the ability of the government or the people in charge to shut everything down. To the point where it's nobody has not nobody, because some people are allowed to work. They work remotely, or, think of the Googles and the Facebook. Those are all companies that can work wherever. In all reality. And then I think about how the government can suppress everything. And then I think about the food supply chain. Is it really safe for people to be making food? Really?
Yeah.
Will that change? I don't know. Will everything go to a delivery service to minimize potential contact?
Boy,
I don't know. I think this is scary enough, but it's not it's about every 10 years something like this happens to this level. Maybe not quite this extreme, but the swine flu and then other epidemics. But
well, I'm really glad that the Chinese made, so they had a temporary law closing down their live animal markets, mm-hmm. and that in February became a permanent thing. Wow. So, even though they certainly have their problems, they also show a willingness to make pretty big changes.
Yeah.
But I think we're seeing that the way we interact with animals is not exactly safe.
Right. The other thing too is, they welded doors shut.
Did they really?
They locked people in because people weren't going in, and this was in Wuhan or whatever. I didn't actually read the article, so let me clarify that. But I've heard it from multiple sources, and they've seen dramatic change there. In the sense of the contamination or the spread of the virus has gone down significantly. So
it's so tricky though, because you get into this thing where you're basically commending the Chinese for being a dictatorship, which is not really what you want to, you don't want to draw that thought to its natural conclusion. But on the other hand, I think one of the things that we're seeing here, when you look online and you see people going to the beach yesterday, and apparently at Ocean Beach was crazy. And this isn't like South Florida where, you could say, oh, look at those drunk idiots. There's no question that these people should know better. And you do think like there is something about the American spirit about breaking the rules and doing our own thing, which is both good and has its problems.
Mm-hmm.
And in a situation like this, I think we need to have some more of an idea of collective behavior, and it's not because we want to silence people's thoughts, but, I think there's still people out on Tinder and stuff doing, going and hooking up with each other. And I think that's like stupid, selfish behavior.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think there's a level of rule abiding that I appreciate, like when you're driving around and you've got scooters and one-wheeled skateboards and bikes and people not riding or flowing where they're supposed to. It causes more risk for everybody, like you pull up to a stop sign and, you don't expect to see somebody coming from the wrong direction,
Right.
And so then you nearly hit them and then now you're, you know what I mean? Like, so same thing. And like if people start following these rules, yes, they're rules, but they keep everybody safe and keep everybody flowing.
Yeah, we rebel against that stuff. And I think, we sort of tolerate it on a daily basis as we drive around the city or walk around the city. But when it comes to something like this, the amount of harm one person could do, I mean, it's not the amount of harm of causing a car accident. I mean, one person can affect, what are they saying, 1,700 other people?
Yeah, I haven't heard the numbers, but I mean,
New Orleans, like when San Francisco was already locked down, so there was no question about what needed to be done. They had St. Patrick's Day in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And I think they're about to have a huge number of infections.
Yeah.
We got to change the subject back to filmmaking or something. This is like, I haven't really talked that much about this to people, so it's like it kind of like it's too much. And plus we're not experts on this shit. So
yeah we're just spreading.
So, what's funny though, I'll tell you one thing that's like good and bad. I feel like we have gotten into this cycle about gear where you go immediately from waiting for one thing to hearing rumors about the next thing. There's like a endless chain of what you should be buying for gear. And as much as I feel bad for the folks that do NAB and make their living off of it, I actually think that the like no new rumors about gear for the last week has been not so bad.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
like I think I could use a break from being told about the next thing that I have to buy.
I agree. Yeah, I kind of went on a buying freeze about a month and a half ago. And then I had a couple projects scheduled down in LA, excuse me, where I needed some different stuff. And so I started looking at that, but then obviously travel and the scenario that's happening now kind of put a pause on that, which has been great because like I'm a gearhead. I love buying gear, and making the job easier or more efficient, which just makes you make no money. It's like, oh, here's $10,000 on this job and you spent $8,500,
I'm definitely at the point where some of my gear is getting a little old and I need to buy some stuff, but the constantly paying attention to the new thing is like a little bit of an addiction.
Yeah, totally. I told you I got the nucleus
wire.
Yeah. So that's I used it once.
Yeah. How did it work?
It worked great. I set it up on the Red and then had it on a track. So it was really nice to be able to have someone push the camera in and then still be able to focus from the other side.
Yeah. I bought a wireless fellow focus a long time ago, and it's one of those things where it's like, now I can't imagine not having it.
Yeah.
The ability to like have to separate operating from focusing is really key.
Yeah, I agree.
And my Red Rock, my last big purchase, actually, my Red Rock follow focus, which is the one I bought originally, always had some problems, and finally I just was like became really unreliable, and so I bought a Teradek Control One, which is like their single channel version. It's really nice to have something that actually, you turn it on and it runs.
Right.
I think the Teradek people have figured out the wireless connection is just much, newer technology or whatever.
Yeah, and you're talking about is it focus all in one, or is it just a video transmitter?
No, this is the focus.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's on my list too. The wireless, the built-in monitor focus thing. See, it's impossible because we could, between the two of us, we could probably rattle off $100,000 worth of gear in like 60 seconds.
Right.
All of which would be perfectly fine and useful things for us to have, but
Yeah. Yeah, I know. What do you think about the live stream movement? I know a lot of churches and companies are doing that. I mean, have you thought about looking at any of that equipment?
I mean, to me, that feels like a completely different profession. Like that's definitely that AV, like live stream thing is totally real and viable. I just, you can't be doing everything. And that to me feels like a step too far beyond my core competency.
Yeah, I agree. It's not as interesting to me either, like there's a lot of technical to it and all of that stuff. It's just not as interesting as, directing or filming, because it's more of just people talking and.
Yeah. I mean, if you were maybe the showrunner and you were responsible for the whole thing, then the fact that it's live wouldn't be like a difference as much. But if you're talking about an event, like as a still photographer a long time ago, I decided that I really didn't have much interest in events. Mm-hmm. I'd been a newspaper photojournalist for a long time. And so I had been to more crap than I could list out, from national political campaigns to football games to pancake breakfasts, and flea markets. And so I always pass on event photography. And so to me, that just seems a little bit like the video version of that.
I agree. Yeah. And like you said, it's a completely different market. It's a whole different mindset. But
it's funny because when people ask me about what I do, and there is a lot of stuff that I like to do, and I feel like I don't like being told, oh, you should be more focused. Like you should only stick to like one thing. But by the same token, I think you do need to find the things that are not part of your deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Cause the more you try to say yes to those means the more you're saying no to the things that you want to do or that really move you.
I mean, I think for you, like I don't really know, so tell me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that got you really going was that you were really positive, like yes guy, and you went and did a little bit of everything, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's super great when you're, going from assisting to doing your own gigs and stuff. But it is possible though for you to be led by your clients and have them lead you to a place that you're not happy about ending up. And so, I mean, one little bit of advice would be like, okay, now you've gotten so far, and now you maybe start saying, okay, that was a branch that I went down that I don't really care that much about anymore, and I don't need to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. For me, at one point, after I got married, I went and I did this wedding, and Yana could tell that when I came back, she could just tell that I just looked fried and I was like, I really like there's some part of it that I really liked. But I just didn't like doing it as a job. And she's like, don't do it anymore. And that was my last one, because I suddenly, oh my gosh, I've got to have some other way to make money became less important.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I've probably shot 30 weddings last year, and it's not my favorite thing. I enjoy it, like you said, but it's not something I want to do every day or every weekend. My girlfriend works Monday through Friday typically, and for me to be so into it Friday night, packing and charging and all that stuff, and then gone all of Saturday, and then, tired on Sunday. It's not fair to her in our relationship.
Right.
I've opted to not shoot any more weddings.
And maybe that's the trade-off of being in a relationship with somebody and saying, okay, well, she brings in a certain amount of money, and so I don't have to do this other thing that would increase the amount of money, but also has a real expense.
Yeah, that takes a toll on the relationship, and all of her free time is my busy time.
But it also means that if somebody calls with a really interesting out-of-town job that goes over a weekend and you've agreed to a wedding 6 months in advance, then you can't take that job. And so it's not simply that you don't need the money, it's that you might be actually giving up something that would move your career down the track that you actually care about.
Right. And that's exactly what would happen, is like I'd have this wedding set for June and then I get a call, do you want to go to Costa Rica and film this thing? I'm like, yeah, let me figure that out, because I'd rather go to Costa Rica. And that always happens, because even when you take a week-long job, there's potential for a better job or a more interesting job.
Yeah, well, that's definitely a reality. It's just that the weddings, I think, are, they demand a much further out booking than most of us are used to.
Right. Yeah, because you could book a year in advance, sometimes even 2 years, depending. But yeah, I think it's important, to stick to your commitments. You got to be able to take jobs that are important to you as well. So yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of things to think about. Like you said, there's potential change at the end of this, and preparing and doing some strategizing within your own company, your own direction, I think is key for all of us now, whether we're hair and makeup or we're designers or retouchers or anything that's part of this industry. There's work coming. Things will come back to a normal balance, and just trying to navigate that and get there. And I don't know. I think like you said too. Working on some things, but setting aside time to prepare yourself for when that space is open, and then you can be able to communicate what the needs are, So.
Yeah. And I'd say, anybody who's super antsy right now and thinking, oh my gosh, I've just got to get back to it. I can relate to that, but I also just think that the writing on the wall is that this is going to be a lot longer than anyone can even imagine at this point. I was just reading about, Goldman Sachs is predicting a 24% dip in productivity in the quarter after this. So we're looking at a real recession, or a depression, not just a recession, which I don't think any of us have really experienced before. And I don't know, whatever you can do to prepare for this being longer than you want it to be is what we need to be thinking right now.
Yeah.
And then, God, we haven't even talked about people lose it. My dad is definitely in a high risk group, and our doctor wanted us to put him in a skilled nursing, in a care facility, and he didn't want to, and we felt like it was worth protecting his wishes. Now I feel so happy that he's at home. He has people come and take care of him, but at least he's not going to be in some place where it goes through the whole building like wildfire. Right. But if he does end up in the hospital, I don't know how we go. I don't know if I can go visit him. I don't know if I can get, it's all the way across the country. I don't know if I can get there.
Yeah. At some point they'll probably shut down all travel, right?
I kind of if we had a different president, we probably would have already.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. Our loved ones are scattered, like I'm checking in on my family every day, just making sure they're safe, making sure they, have everything they need and are staying protected. My dad's old school, and he's very much like, I'll be fine in every situation, no gloves, no mask, nothing. I'm like, no, take this, prepare yourself. You don't know what's out there, and I sure don't want this to hit you. So do it for me, if nobody else,
Yeah.
But,
and the idea of being in a hospital on a ventilator, I mean, that's not a good situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, you'll get a shot and you'll be fine. Like, this is definitely in the like hardcore ICU medical.
Yeah. If resources even allow that, I mean, I think I read something about a hospital like rigging up multiple ventilators off of one because they couldn't get more parts or something like that. I mean,
jeez.
Yeah. So it's definitely worth protecting yourself and staying in. But yeah, I mean, like, what do we do? I mean, for those of us that don't have money coming in, like, how are there ways to generate income through all of this? Or do we just, you know what I mean? If they're not suspending rents or mortgages or, how does that all,
It's really tricky because it's funny, like watching like how much emphasis, like how many people, like, I don't know, freelance photographers always were kind of like their own, like we were sort of businesses, we were sort of freelance, we were kind of like have been at this for a long time. But all these new professions like Uber driver, that never existed before. And, this whole even idea of the gig economy, I think we kind of moved a lot of people into a place where they had a lot less security than they understood that they had.
Mm-hmm.
I would not want to be any one of those. I would not want to be dependent on that kind of income right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, nobody even wants to get in a car with anybody.
Right. And, you look at how quickly those companies, like the guy from Airbnb, all he had to say was he wants the government to bail out his hosts. I'm like, you created this paradigm of all this risk. And, the second that, that stuff goes bad, you want the government to bail everybody out. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it only one, I think Houston, for example, they finally started tagging Airbnb. So they had to pay like a hotel tax. Whereas I don't think that's the case in a lot of places.
Yeah. San Francisco made people register as businesses, right?
I think something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're in some ways really poorly prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see how many people are actually like at quite a bit of risk. It's a country where we have a lot of debt, not a lot of savings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I've got savings, but I don't know how long it's going to last. Like, especially now, like I got a studio to pay for, which I'm not really using, and it's another expense on top of my housing.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely looking for ways to generate some sort of revenue, whether it be, product photography, or I don't know, have somebody ship something to me and then, like use Zoom or something like that with an art director so that they can chime in or, but.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I could certainly if somebody wanted me to do some conceptual thing with their product, I could certainly do that here. Mm-hmm. My bigger issue is not the ability, but just the relationships with the person and knowing that there's somebody out there that wants it. I think for you and me, video editing is an interesting way to make some short-term money. Mm-hmm. That's something I do for some clients anyway. And the question is if they have, do they have something they want you to edit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, maybe people who can't make anything new are starting to think, well, we can't make anything new. What do we have that we can repurpose?
Right. Twist the story or change the story. I think that's definitely a good avenue. Are you part of the I Need an Editor group on Facebook?
Oh no, I used I Need a Sound Guy. I can't believe how many. I mean, things that are, and how well they work.
Yeah.
Like when you need somebody in a certain city, they work really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess the other thing is like, while you're not making money, I think it's a good time for all of us to be rebuilding our portfolios, redoing websites. I've tweaked mine recently, but I haven't done a major redo of anything in a long time. My reel in particular could really use a refresh.
Yeah.
And that's one of those big projects that takes a long time. So,
yeah, I mean, I think that's, for those of us that have a little bit of cushion, we have opportunity to do that. But for those that don't have a big cushion.
No, I think I think you're right. I mean, for anybody who's like month to month as a freelancer of any sort, it's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you fall back on.
Yeah.
It's not like you can be like, oh, I'm going to throw in the towel and go drive for Uber, because I don't think that's much of an option right now.
No, I mean, the only thing I think that's hiring are like grocery stores and Target
if you want to go work in a factory for Amazon.
Yeah.
So actually so let's say if we were brainstorming and we think that cutting is one thing we could do, and so cutting your own reel would be a good use of time, but if you needed the money more than doing your own reel, do you think there's other people out there that could use you to cut their reel for them?
Yeah.
Or do you think that maybe people would be too afraid to spend the money right now?
I think it's a combination of both. I think a lot of people still, that have other things going on or other revenue generators, they would be able to maybe pass that along and have somebody do that. Maybe they're not that great of an editor. Maybe they're it's just not their thing.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine. I mean, I can send him anything and he can chop up story out of it, which is a beautiful, that he's a real editor,
Yeah.
There's someone who's waiting for you to say, okay, put this there and put that, but, I think if people have money, sure. I think it could work. I think
one of the people on that call was talking about, maybe it was Heather talking about Tim Tatter. And she said that, he's really worried about his assistants and his crews. And they were trying to figure out ways that they could, that he could give some money to them. And I don't know if it was the same story or a different story. They were thinking, well, what if we sold stock? And then as we sold stock, we would give the money, we would spread the money out to the people who worked on those things. Mm-hmm. Maybe if you reach out to some of the people who are sort of bigger fish that have some real money, that have some savings, maybe it is worth it for them to keep you busy cutting their reel or doing some other thing for them now.
Yeah. I mean, I think, for those that have, a bigger crew, typically more consistently, I think they would have more of a reserve, and also are better equipped to endure the longevity of this. So therefore they may be in a key position when all of this clears to, like we talked about earlier, is to be able to start marketing again.
Yeah. To have something ready to go.
Yeah. Because I think that you don't want to just sit still and wait for it to clear and then figure things out. You've got to, keep going. So I think some of those people definitely would have the budget to do some editing.
And then somebody I was reading on LinkedIn, he was offering up some things, and he said, look, don't take advantage of the situation, but there's people out there that really want to work. And, if you can put together, like if you need a logo designed, or if you need a this or that or the other thing, maybe you get you get a little bit better deal than you normally would, and you get to help somebody out. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a way we should all be thinking right now.
Yeah. I mean,
for me, it's, I don't know. It's like, it's really easy to be like, oh, I'm going to do nothing. I'm not going to spend money. But I guess even as I hear myself saying this, I'm like, maybe I should be thinking that way.
Yeah. I mean, because it's still the same concept, right? You could sit and edit for a few days, but then you're not doing anything else in those few days. Whereas now you might be able to find that a little less expensive. So they're more valuable. And I think, there's a lot of companies. Airlines are a good example. They're, wholesaling everything so that they can get some sort of money now, but it looks like they might need a bailout, But
okay, so this is complete like shift into like maybe the politics or the economics world. Here's my personal take on the airlines. We bailed those mothers out after 9/11 to a huge amount of money. And I remember United, I think it was, the day after they got the money from the government, they fired like 20,000 people. Mm-hmm. And I'm still burned about that. And so I think we should probably bail the airlines out because we don't want to have to not have airlines when this is over. But I think it needs to have some real connection, real strings attached to it. Mm-hmm. It should be a loan, not a gift. They shouldn't be able to fire anybody. They should use it to meet payroll. Mm-hmm. And honestly, if they really want to come out of this ahead, instead of parking all their airplanes, what they're going to do is they're going to basically cut all these routes. So when they come out of it, there'll be less supply and higher prices. Mm-hmm. I think instead they should be taking seats out of their airplanes and going back to like a more comfortable way of flying. Yeah. That's what they should do with their bailout money.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Use it to make flying more humane again.
Yeah.
And use it to figure out how to clean the damn planes in between each flight.
Yeah. Not just a vacuum.
Oh, well, we've become the airline janitors, right? They go through the flight like 6 times during the flight, having you pick up your trash. Mm-hmm. Because remember, they used to actually have people go through the plane and change the head. Remember, there were headrest things to protect you from like, creepy crawlies going in your hair.
Yeah. But yeah, they've skimped out on a lot of things. That's another thing that, we were talking about what could potentially change with all of this. And I think that's a big thing is like, well, how do we keep things clean? Like what are the procedures with food from the manufacturer?
Yeah.
How sanitized does it have to be, and how securely sanitized does it have to be?
Should your live bat be cleaned before you put it in your soup?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but no, I mean, I think we've got some really good ideas going, and love to chat again soon.
Maybe you can cut out most of the nonsense and just use the stuff where we actually talk about things we know.
Yeah, make it legitimate, right?
Well, man, I'm glad you set this up. I mean, I don't know what you're going to do with it, but it's just nice I actually had been thinking about you before this, that we hadn't talked in a while.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, we both got busy. I kind of like head down in the studio trying to get all that stuff going, and but yeah, so I'm really glad we connected, and hopefully we can touch base in a week or two or whatever.
Yeah.
And just keep things moving.
And I'm sure we'll find something to work on together when this is all or at least somewhat over, because I don't think it's going to be all over. I think we'll get back to work, and then it'll be a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah. I mean, there'll definitely be new precautions and all of that stuff. So, but yeah, in time being, keep me posted if anything pops up, or if we want to just chat again, I would love to. My heart is to like help people, give people creative ideas, insight on how to endure this thing. So,
yep.
Well, Michael, thank you so much.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah. And we'll do this again soon.
All right. Catch you later.
All right.